Hey everybody, it's Kevin Weiss from bodyperformance.net, and today I'm teaming with Riptone Fitness again to bring you another video on exercises that you can do at home to work on your strength. Not just the typical type stuff that you'll see in a lot of home workouts, tons of burpees, tons of air squats, stuff like that, where you're doing a lot of reps. This is more focused on taking those types of exercises and making them harder so that you can continue to work on strength, maintaining your strength, and even building strength. Just by making a few small changes, we can do this with some limited equipment if you have access to it, but there's also options if you have access to basically nothing. So the last one that we did, we looked at kind of the squat pattern. I really consider there's only a few basic movements that the body does that you want to focus on in your exercise. And this is a bit of a generalization, but I'm just going to go through. We want to do some sort of a squat and variation, so lunges and stuff will be included in that. Some sort of a hip hinge, which will be like deadlift, swings, hip extensions, those types of things. Pushing horizontally, pushing vertically, pulling vertically. Basically, if you're covering those things in your workout, whether you're doing it at the gym or doing it at home with body weight or with equipment, you're going to be pretty good. You're going to have things covered. You're going to have things pretty covered. So, like I said, we covered the squat a little bit on the first one. So today we're going to cover an upper body and look at more at the push-up. So obviously the push-up is a very basic exercise for most people. And there is people that need it to be made easier, and then there's people that need it to be made harder. So what I'll look at first of all is how to degress the push-up so that it's easier for people to do. And then we'll look at a few things that you can do to make it harder so that you're not doing tons and tons and tons of reps. You're able to keep your reps in 15 to less range, and maybe even lower than that, and work on some strength. So just to keep this video not too long, we'll get right going right now. So the one thing I want to say very first thing is a lot of people, if they're not able to do proper push-ups, they go to the default of going off their knees like this. And I'm not a real big fan of doing this, to be honest. For one thing, most people tend to still do it wrong, where they'll end up doing something more like this instead of keeping their body flat, which is the position that you would be if you were here. You would just be dropping your knees down. So what I want to be able to maintain that full lever length from your toes to your shoulders, because if you're doing them off your knees like that, I've seen it many times over the years where people they can do 10 to 15 of those, but they still can't do one regular push-up because they never develop the strength to be able to support themselves in that way. So what I recommend, I have the squat rack here, which I can put the bar higher or lower, and that's great because I have one of these. But if you don't have one of those, you can use a chair, a bench, a table, whatever, to bring your angle up. So just using this bench as an example, this is going to be much easier for me than doing them off the floor, but I'm still able to do it with the full length. And then as I get stronger, once you're able to do more than 10 of them, then you want to start lowering this. So you would go to a lower bench, maybe to like my stool right here. This is probably half of the length of that, and you start doing that. Once you're able to do those for a significant amount of reps, then you bring yourself completely to the floor, keeping yourself flat all the way down, all the way up. But people get strong quickly, and very soon this is not going to be hard enough for them. So if you have access to some bands or something like that, that can be helpful, and we'll show that right away. But what if you don't have access to bands? What if you only have access to your body weight? Well, what you do from there is you begin making the angle go the other way. So instead of having your shoulders elevated, now you begin to elevate your feet. So using this bench as an example again, doing the push-up with your feet elevated is now going to make that much harder than doing them flat. So that's one option that you can do to increase the difficulty of your push-ups. Another thing that you can do is making the balance points less stable, if we will. So you can do several options there. You can offset your hands. You can do something where you are doing explosive type push-ups, like you'll see people doing where they push up and clap, stuff like that. You don't have to clap, but you just do an explosive push-up like that, where you're bringing yourself down and pushing as hard as you can. That's going to make it much harder than just doing a standard push-up as well. So those are a couple of real quick things that you can change using body weight. So now maybe you're lucky enough you do have access to a few things, like a band, for example. So if you do have access to a band but you're not strong enough to do a regular push-up, you can take advantage of that by just turning it into a chest press, where you're just pressing with the band like that. This is a very light band, and there's many different options to that. And you just find you get it placed around your back, around your shoulders, get your arms in between, and you can push from there. So that's if it's too easy. If you need something harder, well, you just do the same thing with your push-up. I'll just move this bench out of the way. So you get yourself set in the same way with your push-ups, and you're using that band as a little bit of extra resistance. And that is going to make somebody, depending on the band, you can get some pretty thick bands that you can have somebody that's capable of doing 50 push-ups, and they're maybe only able to do 5 to 10 at that point in time. So that's one option to be able to do it. And then another really good one for people that are really strong and maybe they just want to learn a new challenge or something over this time when they have the extra time to actually do it, and that's the one-arm push-up. And it's very difficult to do. It takes some time to learn, but if you got time to do it, it can be very effective at increasing a skill and also adding strength in an area that you wouldn't normally have it. So I do encourage people to start slow with these and utilize some sort of a bench or something. Even higher than this I would start, because you can always work lower eventually. But I'm just going to do this as an example using the bench here. You just want to legitimately be doing a one-arm push-up so that your arm is behind you, your legs are spread as much as you need, and then everything remains tight so that your body stays in one line, and you're controlling on the way down as far down as you can. All the way down is what I would consider a push-up. If you can't do that all the way down, then you probably need to do a higher bench and push back up until you're back into that position. So those obviously aren't easy, but they can be fun to learn. And you get where you can do 10 push-ups, 10 legitimate one-arm push-ups on each side. You're going to get pretty strong doing that, and then when you come back to doing your weights, when you're able to get back to the gym, you're going to notice that that strength that you had before is certainly still there, and maybe you even have some that you didn't have before. So that's probably good for today for the upper body press. We're going to look at probably a hip hinge next in the next video. So I hope these videos are helping you out. I'm Kevin Weiss from bodyperformance.net, brought to you by Riptone Fitness. I'll talk to you again real soon.